We'll be moving on." They came into clearer focus, and it was not the words that struck George, but that the young man was precisely the age of his Caleb. That he and his companion were trespassing was beside the point entirely. In the nervous chatter of his voice, the eyes that darted like those of an animal hiding from prey, the young man gained George's sympathy, perhaps the only morsel of it left in an otherwise broken heart. "Where is it you two come from?" "We're Mr. Morton's. Well, was." Ted Morton was a dimwit, a man who, if offered a fiddle, would be as liable to smash it against his own head to hear the noise as put a bow to its strings. His parcel of land bordered George's, and when an issue arose, a runaway most often, the ensuing spectacle rife with armed overseers and large-snouted dogs, lanterns of such illumination that they kept the entire household awake, was so unpleasant that George often deferred all communications with the family to Isabel just to avoid the ordeal. But to find Morton's former property on his land now carried with it a welcome irony. Emancipation had made the buffoon helpless to their wanderings, and for all his great shows of might, these two men were now free to be as lost as George was in this very instance. "Our apologies," said the man in front. They began to bundle up their blanket, collecting a small knife, a bit of stripped beef, pieces of bread, but stopped once George started in again. His eyes wandered the ground in front of him as if searching for something lost. "I've been following a beast of some size," he said. "Black in color, known to stand on 2 feet, but usually found on 4. It's been years since I saw the creature with my own 2 eyes, but I often wake to its image, as if it's trying to alert me to its presence nearby. Sometimes on my porch, I'll be dozing off, and the memory of it is so strong, so clear, that it travels through my head like an echo, bounding through my dreams. As far as tracking it, I'm afraid to say it's gotten the upper hand." The two men looked at one another, then back at George. That's mighty curious," the smaller one said. In the last remnants of light, George could make out the taller one, a man whose eyes were so placid and displayed so little emotion that he seemed simple. His lower jaw was cracked open wide, revealing a hanging slab of teeth. It was the other one, the smaller one, who continued to do the talking. George asked them their names. "This here's my brother Landry. I'm Prentice." "Prentice? Did Ted come up with that?" Prentice looked at Landry as if he might have a better idea. "I don't know, sir. I was born with that name. It was either him or the missus." "I imagine it was Ted. I'm George Walker. You wouldn't happen to have some water, would you?" Prentice handed over a canteen, and George understood he was expected to ask after them, investigate why they were here on his land. But the issue took up such a small space in his thinking that it felt like a waste of what energy he had left. The movements of other men interested him so little that the indifference was his chief reason for living so far from society. As was so often the case, his mind was elsewhere. "I get the sense you've been out here some time. You wouldn't have happened to have seen that animal I spoke of?" Prentice studied George for a moment until George realized the young man's gaze was trained past him, somewhere off in the distance. "Can't say I have. Mr. Morton had me on some of his hunting trips. I seen all sorts of things, but nothing like you described. Mostly fowl. Those dogs come back with the birds still quivering in their mouths, and he'd have me string 'em up to the others and carry 'em home on my back. I had so many you couldn't see me through the feathers. Other boys would be jealous I got to go off for the day, but they didn't know the first thing about it. I'd rather be in the field than have that load on my back." "That's something," George said, considering the image. "That's really something." Landry pulled apart a chunk of meat and handed it to Prentice before taking one for himself. "Don't be rude now," Prentice said. Landry looked over to George and motioned to the meat, but George declined with a shake of his head. They sat in silence, and George found their aversion to speaking welcome. Other than his wife, they seemed like the only individuals he'd come upon in some time who would rather leave him.
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.